Welcome to Sacred Magic. Violet is on a quest to bring sacredness back into our everyday experiences. Anyone can have an extraordinary life when they are able to tap into their sacred magic within. Violet and her guests will be sharing their divine passions, inspirations, and stories of connecting with their sacred magic. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Vialet Rayne.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Vialet B Rayne. And today's guest is Lora Cheadle, is a former attorney, author, multidimensional healing facilitator, specializing in betrayal recovery and human transformation. Drawing on her legal background, somatic movement expertise, and channeled wisdom from the Librarians, a collective of guides overseeing humanity's soul lessons, she helps individuals alchemize betrayal into self-sovereignty and spiritual maturity. Her work bridges intellect and intuition, offering a unique blend of neuroscience, soul work, and sacred embodiment. She's the author of FLAUNT, Drop Your Cover and Reveal Your Smart, Sexy, and Spiritual Self. And it's not burnout, it's betrayal. So I love that. Lots of big words for me today as I move through, but beautiful and lovely. And I'm so glad to have you back on the show. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I love your show and everything that you do.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, talk to us for people that may not have ever met you. How did you get into this work of betrayal, and how has it shown up for you in your life and probably in others as well as you've worked with people?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't something that I ever planned on doing. I was practicing law. I was doing like corporate wellness. I was doing, yoga, meditation, like all of that, just general wellness stuff. And after 23 years of what I thought was a really solid, happy marriage, I found out my husband had been cheating on me for 15 of those years with multiple women. And it completely destroyed me because I thought, wait a minute, I'm intuitive, I'm good, I'm doing all the right things. How could this happen to me? And it took a while. It definitely took a while to start understanding that the betrayal is really a portal for growth, for soul connection, for learning. And I started understanding and learning what betrayal really was and how to heal it, not only for me and in my life, but also on an ancestral level. And the more that I learned about betrayal, the more that I learned how it shows up in so many other areas of life. And like how oftentimes when we think we're burned out, we're not really burned out. We're dealing with a deep sense of betrayal. And we can feel betrayed, when somebody we love dies, when things don't turn out the way that we think they are supposed to turn out, when our body gets sick, when things happen, we feel betrayed, but we just don't talk about it or identify it as betrayal.
I love that. I love that. And I love the fact that instead of moving into that energy of victim, which we all feel for a period of time, I think it's natural to go, wow, somebody hurt me. They hurt me. How could they hurt me? I think that's a natural response. But I think the next thing is what do I gain from this? What do I learn from this experience? What do I need to work on in me to help me move through that experience instead of getting stuck in that energy where we can't move forward? So anything that happens to us, I think it's spiritual growth when we get to a point of, wow, what's happening in my life? What do I need to step back and look at instead of all around me? What is this that the universe is showing me to work through, and not everyone can do that. So I love that you help people kind of move through that.
Yeah, thank you. And you're right, it is hard. And it's really hard to sit in that space of, I was victimized by this.
Mhm.
I was. But it's a choice whether I remain in that victim energy or whether I move on. And I don't want to spiritually bypass. So how do I feel all of that and then grow? And it's hard and it's icky and it's like you just want it to move on. You want to be done. And it's hard to sit with all that growth and to do the work.
It is hard, and a lot of people don't understand that we came here to do the work. We came here to work on ourselves, our family, our ancestors. We came here to do that work, and the work is not always easy. And it requires us to get really vulnerable and uncomfortable, right, in our own space so that we can really move through it instead of, like you said, the bypass. Let's not bypass this, right? Let's sit with this for a minute and really work through these energies, because when you do that, it is so, so powerful when
Yeah.
we can move through that. I love that. So, how do you get to the point of this spiritual maturity? What are some of the things that you have found that's let people really work through this to that maturity level?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is really understanding control, sovereignty, like what it means. Because I know for so many years in my life, I thought control meant me controlling the situation or controlling other people or, you know what I mean? Choosing the right things. And it really means going to my energy inside and either creating a different reality for myself, which is hard. It's like, but I want other people to create it for me so I don't have to work so hard. Or getting to that level of, I can release this because I trust that there is something better or different coming along that I didn't see. So, how do I step into that space of radical control and choosing and creating my own life, while at the same time realizing that spirit might have something better in mind and I can and should take my hands off the wheel to see what's coming in. And it's just doing that constant dance back and forth of trusting and creating, going within, going without.
I love that. You use the word sovereignty, and I use that word in my mystery school. And it surprises me 90% of the individuals have no idea what sovereignty really means. So, share with our viewers, what does sovereignty really mean?
I love that you use that. It's sort of what I was talking about, that radical awareness that I am me and I am in control of how I feel and how I think and what I do. And where I'm limited, where there's blocks, whether those are internal blocks or external blocks, I really have the power to transcend, to move through those because we are all raised with so many limitations. We are afraid of being judged. We do things because we don't want to be judged. We do things because we want to be the good girl or we want to follow the rules. And it's just coming into that space of, no, it really is me. And I really can make decisions for myself.
Right. It's really important to step into your sovereignty because we're influenced all the time from our family, from our partners, from our best friends influence us, to our communities, to our coworkers, to our bosses. All of these individuals that come into your life influence you to some level. So it's about stepping back, I think, sometimes and saying, what is my truth? What do I believe? Where do I want to go? And standing in your own power, which is sovereignty, knowing that I create my own reality. So what do I want to create? And taking the reins and really making those decisions. You know, a lot of times, like you said, we want to be accepted. We don't want to be rejected or judged. So we do what everyone else is doing to fit in. And maybe that's not who you are. I think if more of us stepped into our uniqueness, our beauty of what makes us different, and be really comfortable with who we are, that we could really change our reality in lots of different ways, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And life would be so much more rich because we would all be in our power, in our uniqueness, and it would be more fun instead of the whole sea of sameness out there.
That is very true. So I can't wait to talk to you about the librarians that you talk about. So
Yeah.
share with us a little bit about who they are, what your experiences have been with them, and also I'm sure you've learned a lot with working with them.
Oh my gosh, so much. Yes. Okay. You might have heard about the Akashic realm. And the Akashic realm is where like every individual's records are stored. So, like the records of your life, your past lives, your experiences, your entire history as a soul. So, everybody has got their Akashic records, their books in the Hall of Records. Who the librarians are is they are librarians almost like I see them as above the Hall of Records. And they're not concerned with the individual's lessons. They're concerned with the collective because as individuals learn and grow, so does the collective learn and grow. So, like, if you can imagine this hall of records and there's a book for every single soul, what the librarians do is they like scan all of those books and they'll say, he, all of the souls that have learned lessons around self-judgment, we collect that wisdom. All the souls that have learned lessons around abandonment, we collect those lessons. All the souls that have learned lessons around betrayal, we collect those lessons. So then they compile all of the information around the lessons that we have learned. And then as a collective, we can move through lessons. It's possible for humanity to no longer have to learn, the lessons around self-judgment. When we all move through that, when enough individuals have moved through that, then the collective moves through it as well.
I
So,
love that. So
yeah.
what have you learned about our day and time right now? Because I feel like there's a lot of energies out there really struggling, and there's this chaos in our world right now because we're so divided at this point.
Yeah.
So it's hard to have a collective when we have this division that's really happening. But I don't know about you. I feel like it's purposeful. At some point, there's going to be something big that happens that shakes us to the core so that we stop being divided.
Absolutely. And what the librarians have shown me is there's a couple major lessons that we are on the cusp of moving through as humanity. And one of those lessons is war. Like the need to have war, to fight, to have that physical conflict. That so many of our souls have been involved in wars and warlike behavior in the past that we have all come to realize no, war energy is not energy I need in my personal body. So, as a collective, we are on the cusp of pushing that through. But there's still the group of souls out there who are like, no, 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 I haven't learned enough from that war energy. And it's not that it's good or bad, it's just that I'm not done with that. I haven't learned it. We can't move this out of the collective yet. I'm not done. I haven't experienced it. So things are surging up right now in service of moving out. Because when the tipping point happens, when most of us have been like, no, I'm good. I've got an understanding of war. I don't need that. I'm good. It can elevate, shift out, and then humanity will not have to deal with it. And the reason things are so volatile right now is there's a few main things like that that are on their way out, but there's still souls who are saying, but wait, I'm not done.
I want to have some more experiences, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like on that edge of something really big pushing us through that energy that'll shift things completely. Now, when that's going to happen, I'm not sure, but I get the feeling from my guides and team that this is all because I have people come and go, aren't you concerned? Aren't you afraid? And I said, I'm really not, because I know this is all purposeful. I don't know why it's purposeful or exactly how it's purposeful, but I trust that there's something happening here and that we came at this time to hold this energy for whatever is in front of us so that we can evolve to another level. And I
Mhm.
really do believe that to my core. So,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. It's like we can hold space because, again, I think it's so easy as a human to see things like as a hierarchy. Like we are enlightened, so we are better. And these other people, they're not enlightened, so they're not good. And it's just experience. And I feel like a lot of really strong light workers came in at this time. So we can hold that neutral space of, yes, we are holding the space for love. And if you still want to experience division, we can still hold space, experience it, because we know you're divine too. We know you're just experiencing this. It's not bad. And when you're done, we will all be unified and we will all be one again.
I love that. I love that. You talk about sacred rage, sacred grace, divine purpose of difficult emotions. What do you mean by that?
Sacred rage, like when I found out about the infidelity, there was I was never like an angry person. You know what I mean? I had never been in touch with anger. And I thought anger and rage and grief were things that we didn't want to experience, that they were lower emotions. And when I got in touch with, no, 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 my rage is sacred. My grief is sacred. I went through this experience so I can feel more deeply. So I can access deeper levels of compassion and grace and understanding, not only for other people, but for myself as well. And when I can honor that experience instead of push it away, that's where I, speaking of sovereignty, get back into my own power. That's where I become a sovereign being, that I'm no longer afraid of feeling that. I can feel it all and still move through it and still be okay.
I love that you're honoring emotion, because I feel like emotion is critical. If we ignore our emotions, or we reject our emotions, or we push our emotions away, that's when it gets stuck in our physical body and becomes illness and disease, because we've pushed and held that in. I think the key here is to feel your emotions, but do it in a healthy way, not a destructive way, not a destructive way to yourself or to others. But how do you work through emotions? And it's finding those tools, right? Those healthy tools that allow us to really process those emotions in a very healthy way. So we're not holding it in, but we're letting it out. But we're not being destructive to physical things or people or ourselves. We're just releasing it and holding space for that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not fun, but it's okay. I can handle it. And I really appreciate how you said, no, it's not about being destructive to other people or to things. It's flowing it.
Right, because a lot of people think about anger and rage of people throwing things or slamming doors or hitting walls or hitting other people or destructive things. And, I had to learn that lesson in my life, because honestly, my mother would take rage to that destructive level, and she would tear up and destroy everything in front of her. And I grew up thinking that's how you processed your emotions. And it took me a long time to really sit and go, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? How can I do this differently? How can I use breath work to work through anger? How can I get moving and exercise or walk to process my anger? How can I, just sit with it? Maybe get a pillow and, punch a pillow that's not going to hurt anything. How do I allow those emotions to come out, to cry, to weep, right? To even wail sometimes of, oh my gosh, this happened to me. I think we all need to understand how we process emotions that's not destructive to the people that we love, the people in our lives, but allow us to release it and let it go. And there is that balance piece of
Yeah.
being able to process.
Yeah. And I love that you said the balance piece because as my husband and I started working through this infidelity, his infidelity was born of pain. He was a severely abused, neglected child in a lot of poverty. So for 15 years, his mom was very violent and very destructive. So it's like he was wounded for 15 years and held on to all that pain. Well, then he cheated on me for 15 years. So, like in his books, that's balance. You know what I mean? That he was hurt, so now he's hurting others. But then it's like, no, I'm not going to go hurt other people because I was hurt. How do I stop that cycle of violence, that cycle of pain, that cycle of guilt, and not just let it eat me alive and, create cancer and disease and all these horrible things? How do I process it? And I love how you said it's like breath work and walking and spiritual practices and using my crystals and meditating because I've got healing to do, but I'm doing it because I'm not passing it on. It stops here.
I love that. you know, I love that you say it stops here. What we don't realize is how powerful we are as divine beings. And sometimes I'll hear women say, well, my mother had this and my aunt had this, and so I'm going to have this. No, you
Nope.
don't have to choose that. You can say, nope, it stops here. Just like you said, my anger issues that my mother had and then I got to a point when I had children. It stops here. It doesn't move forward. We're not going to continue that ancestral family line of wounds and pains. It's got to stop here. It will not happen beyond this point because I'm done with this energy and I can see it. We have choices that we can make to choose, knowing that our choices not only affect our family and our loved ones, but also affects the world, humanity, your community, everything. Every choice we make has an effect on everyone and how we choose. And so when you really look at that, you can see that. And sometimes we just have to work through stuff to figure out how to move through it. And it takes a little bit of time to really understand that. We're blind to a lot of things I've noticed in my life. Like I can clearly see with this person what's going on and why it's happening and why they're having that reality, but they can't see it. they
Yeah.
can't they can't see it because they're in the middle of the storm, whereas the outsider looking at it and go, oh, I see exactly what's going on in their life, right?
Right.
Sometimes we need help, like a coach, a mentor, somebody we can go to that's outside of that circle, and to be open, really open to what they're saying, because in reality, when we tell you this is why this is happening, because you've said this, you've done this, you're in this energy, and you're gonna go, no, 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 no. You got to
Right.
be open to that message, because spirit's trying to help you understand what you're creating as a magical creator.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you see that as well. People probably come to you in despair, and in this place, and they can't see, and you can clearly see what's going on with them.
Yeah, yeah. And I love I love that you said that because it's true. We can see other people more clearly than we can see ourselves because we're the neutral observer. And then there's that next piece of it too is the accountability piece. Like how many times have any of us had this huge aha moment and we're like, I get it now. And then we go back to living life the same way we've always lived it before. And it's like we need that outside accountability to be like, wait a minute, this is what you want. This is what spirit's nudging you to do. This is what you have the power to create. Why are you still choosing this behavior? And it's like, old habits die hard. And we need those people outside to keep lovingly putting us back on course.
And you have to be open to that. This really happened to me in my life, where I sat down one day and said, prayer to God. I'm not happy, I'm not joyful, I'm not in a great place. I want you to give me joy, and whatever that means. If that means you take everything I've got, then you take it. I was in a pretty cozy little position in my life, honestly. I had a great job, I made great money, I had my own place, all the stuff. And I said, you take it all, but I want to
Mhm.
experience joy. And we're so used to who we are and what we do that God took everything I had and put me
Yeah.
on the dark night of the soul for about 3 years. And I kept trying to go back to what I did before. I kept trying to do it the same way I had done it before to build back up to where I was. And they weren't having it. Like, I was getting roadblocks everywhere. And I remember going to lunch with someone, and I was at that desperate end of, okay, I've accomplished everything I was supposed to. I'm kind of done. I'm ready to go home. My kids are grown, da da da. And she goes, all right, victim energy. They're trying to
Yep.
teach you something. This is not what is important. They want you to see the world differently, and you're fighting that. So until you can step back and look at it. And I'll tell you, I went home from lunch that day. I was so angry. Like, how can she not understand where I'm at and the pain I'm
Right.
in? And I got all that. And it still took me another year, year and a half to work through it. And she was absolutely right. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely right. But I was in the middle of a storm and I wasn't having it. I wasn't hearing it. And so they just kept letting me bump my head against every wall possible. And I couldn't get through. I couldn't make it through. They really fought me, but I had asked for it.
Yes.
I had asked for it. Right. So if you're bumping your head against walls, if you're doing the same thing you've always done, but you want something different in your life, find a mentor, coach, and be open to what they're saying, because they're going to see a perspective that you can't see, and you'll take the short road to getting out of that instead of the long road that I did of fighting it. And
Yeah.
so that is a gift that I will give you. If you're bumping your head, please, not a best friend, not a family member, somebody neutral outside of your circle to really help you move through it. There are so many great people out there. It is well worth it. So, with that, Lora, talk to us about how you help people and how people can connect with you.
Yeah, I work with people one on one, either in coaching, coaching and hypnotherapy, but in everything I do, I bring in the librarians. We start our sessions by connecting with them so we can bring in divine guidance. So, just like you said, what's this bigger picture? Where are you being guided? And then, whether it's coaching or hypnotherapy, we just work together one on one to get you where you want to be. I do one-on-one sessions. I do 6-month real intimate containers with people because so many people, like you said, it's a shorter road, but it's still a road. And in 6 months, having that accountability and that support and the hypnosis to rewire your brain and the check-ins from the librarians, your life can change in 6 months. I also have some small group programs, just a variety of ways that people can work with me in service of transformation, healing, feeling good, finding a new way of living, everything that we were talking about.
I love that. I love that. Laura and I connected many, 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 many years ago. And so I love when we get to reconnect and see each other again. I love her work. Um, Whoever you pick, whatever resonates with you, follow your instincts, but be very open to how they're trying to help you, and be committed to having a life, because everyone deserves joy, happiness, and abundance. And it is there for you to have if you choose it. Doesn't mean it's easy, means you got to do the work to get there. But it is definitely possible to have all of that. Depending on how long you've been stuck in a cycle or energy, it can take a little longer to get out of it. We can get really buried in certain things, and it can take a while to pull yourself out. But when you work with someone, they're there to support you and help you really get back on track. So
Yeah.
thank you for spending time with us today and sharing all of your wonderful things. It's been so great to reconnect.
Yeah, thank you. It's been lovely just to spend time with you.
I love that. And thank you for those that are either listening or watching. Please know that please comment, like, follow us on your favorite channels. That helps our podcast grow and our reach get bigger. I wish you a very sacred and magical day and week, and I hope that you will join us again in the near future. Have a great, great day.
Thank you for joining us. To find out more about Vialet, head over to discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. You can also send a personal message to Vialet through email, violet@discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. If you love the show, subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. Until next time, remember, we are meant to have abundant and joyful lives. We hope to see you soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.